Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. I am Dominique and today we are going to make Liberian cassava leaf. This is by far one of the best cassava leaf I have ever made. It was so good. Like all the ingredients, everything was just mwah. And I'm going to show you how you can achieve this cassava leaf from start to finish. Stay tuned. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button, like, comment, share, and let's get to it. For this cassava leaf, the base is really important. I used chicken foot, I used beef, I used chicken, I used cow foot, I used smoked turkey. The smoked turkey is really important for cassava leaf because it brings a really smoky, delicious flavor to the cassava leaf. Like using smoked turkey in cassava leaf is a must. So now for my foundation, what I did was I blended up my onion, bell pepper, and pepper. This is going to make. So now I'll just fill up the pot with water and I'm going to let this cook for maybe about 20 minutes. Now the goal is to produce a really good broth that the cassava leaf is going to soak up. When making cassava leaf, the only thing you need to season it with is either salt, chicken bouillon, or a Maggi cube, jumbo. Do not season it with anything else. So after washing my cassava leaf, I'm now going to blend it up to soften it. A lot of the cassava leaf that come imported, they're a little tough, so blending it will help soften it up a little bit. You don't want to over blend it where it becomes a smoothie. The cassava leaf should have some kind of texture to it. I forgot to also mention I added about maybe 3 tablespoons of peanut butter. Peanut butter gives it a little bit of flavor and helps soften it. I think that's what it's used for. Now after 20 minutes of my broth cooking, this is what it's gonna look like. It was really beautiful. I seasoned it up. It was just really smoky and it was just, everything was just good at this point. You want to make a really good broth so you can add your cassava leaf in there. This is very, very important. After making your broth, the kind of oil you use really determines if your cassava leaf is going to be good. Because your cassava leaf, see it like it's a sponge. When you put your cassava leaf into whatever base that you're using, it's just going to absorb all of that. So whatever it's absorbing, you want it to absorb goodness. So after boiling for a little bit, I'm going to add my cassava leaf into the pot. And this will probably cook for about 25 minutes. It looks a little watery because when it was blending, I rinsed the blender up and then I added that water because I wanted to get every drop of cassava leaf in there. I don't know if you can see this or not, but after all the beef, at this point I added the dry fish. I got some conquay, catfish, dry catfish, and I added it in there just to enhance the flavor. As you can see, I added my dried shrimp. All of this is going to just enhance the flavor of the cassava leaf. It's all about the flavor. Like, if your base is not good, it really determines what your cassava leaf is going to taste like. So I added more pepper and now the cassava leaf is boiling. It's going to cook up a little bit to soften up. As it's boiling, it's going to get softer and the water bubbles are shrinking. As you can see in this picture, what we want is when the bubbles is completely reduced, like what you're seeing here, and it goes down a little bit more, we're going to add the oil. What I should have done, let it boil down a little bit more. When you get to a point where your cassava leaf is boiled down, it's all about preference. Do you want a little thicker or a little looser? I had taken out the beefs that were in it that I didn't want it to get soft, and I just added it back in there. So this was part of the broth earlier. I just took it out because I didn't want it to get soggy. Let it come and soak up the rest. I'm trying to see where you can find the bubbles. So now at this point, the bubbles have reduced a little bit more. What I would have done was let it boil down like maybe 5 more minutes and then added the oil. Because when you add the oil too early, it is going to take a long time for the red oil to boil down or to just cook through because oil and water don't mix. When you're buying oil, make sure you find like someone who's local. Don't buy many of those name brand oil. They don't taste really good. So find like a really, really local, someone who sources their oil from someone good. And that is going to just complete your cassava leaf. If you don't buy a good oil, your cassava leaf is not going to be good. So because I didn't let the water dry all the way. I'm going to let this cook down for like a little bit more. Cooking at West African food, especially cassava leaf, is a process. So this is what I meant when I said I should have let the cassava leaf boil down a little bit, because now the oil and the water aren't mixing, and it's going to take a little bit more effort to get all the water to cook through. So at this point, you don't want to put the heat on super high. Like mine, I kept it on high a little bit so that water can boil down. But if you don't have a lot of water, just medium to low for it to cook through. So now you can see the water has like gone down, and now I'm just kind of like wrapping it up. And here we are at the end. There is no water that's boiling. The cassava leaf is done. This was like one of the best cassava leaf I've made. I think it's just because all the ingredients just really came through together. I hope you like this recipe, and you are going to see another recipe soon.